welcome to Layback with Betfair. Joined by the A-team, we're back.
Hello all, it's time for Layback with Betfair Light. It is the podcast version. We've got rid of the other two nuffies and I'm with King Clance. How are you, Clance? You well, mate?
Yes, I'm enjoying these very casual, coming into the summer versions of the potty. It's plenty of fun. I like to see you got the overshirt on. Always suits you on a day like today. And we got some semi-good racing. At least we're back at Caulfield rather than Cranbourne and Kembla of last week.
Gee, tough last week at those tracks. Fair fall from grace, wasn't it?
Yeah, especially straight after 1,000 Guineas. You know, you don't have that drop off and then, all right, it's time for Cranbourne and Kembla. This was like, we've got Group 1 racing and then we get there straight away.
I know. Hopefully next year we see this meeting move forward a week, I reckon. So it's back-to-back little Caulfield Carnival. So
yeah, and then just keep pushing Kembla and Cranbourne back as far as we can.
And never race at Cranbourne on a Saturday ever again.
Yeah, especially when there's a bit of rain in the air.
That's right. The wet tracks didn't help. How'd you go on the punt?
Nah, no good. I went pretty hard races 1 and 2, and I think Warmonger was out of it by about the 600, 700 metre mark and was dead last and they couldn't make ground. And then Wigan was pretty disappointed as well, I thought, coming off a really nice win at Flemington. Would have been entitled to run a bit better than that. You do. Absolutely. What about yourself?
I did okay considering. Kembla was actually right for me. The track was a bit iffy. It was leaderish early and then Mabel won down the outside fence come race 9, which I found, which was nice. So did all right at Kembla and kept my powder relatively dry at Cranbourne. I was very disappointed. I went for the lay bin early before we kick off a few races. Kilmore off again. Kilmore Cup on Sunday. Cancelled again. I actually was really bullish on Keats and running again this Saturday up against a couple that were in the Kilmore Cup. The abandonments, we can't do anything about the weather, but the weather wasn't a factor at Kilmore. It should have run. It's disappointing, Clance.
And we're keen on Keats?
Not so much this week. Much keener on Sunday in the Kilmore Cup. No pressure. So we'll talk about that race. Let's kick off Ascot. Race 9, the Group 1 racing continues. It's the Winterbottom Stakes. It's a big field, a lot of pressure. The track should be okay. Obviously, we saw 40 degrees last week and we're on a soft track at the moment. Weather looks fine at Ascot, mate. How do you see the Winterbottom?
I think we're getting a very strong Group 1 horse taking on a not-so-strong Group 1 field in Overpass. I think had he drawn in, I think it would have been an absolute special. I still think he's a very good bet at the $3 range that we're currently getting. If he can't get the front, he probably sits outside Sava 2XL. So either leads or sits outside the leader, I think is just too strong for this bunch. The horse that I think is coming into the race in best form over there is a horse called Hot Z. Won the lead up 2 weeks ago, sat 3 wide the trip and was still too strong through the line. Looks like the 1,200 metres won't pull him up at all. So he's $11, $12. I think you can have a saver there and have a pretty decent crack on Overpass at $3 and you'll find yourself in a good spot. Yeah,
the ratings do like Hot Z as well off that last win. The map's fascinating for me. There is a lot of speed, and that's a huge career for me with Overpass. He's clearly the standout. You look at his form, he's got Everest form, and there's the danger in our eyes is coming off a Group 3 over there. So completely different form, but you've got Sava 2XL, Red Can Man's got speed, Oscar's Fortune and Fanta both drawn wide, and then you've got Snowdome drawn out wide, Corn Cobb who has a little bit of speed as well. If that gets a start, that's drawn wide. So there is a bit of pressure here. You reckon he can settle fourth or outside lead and still get the job done?
I don't think he'll take that risk of settling that far back.
Best horse.
Best horse. And as I said, a lot of those speed influences are actually further outside him. So if they want to set a crazy tempo, he ends up in the 1-1, right?
Yep.
So I'd be happy enough if they decide to set a ridiculous tempo for Josh Parr to sit there. But I think he'll probably sit outside the lead.
Josh Parr's a great front-running rider. I agree. I think he's clearly a standout. He's coming off an Everest. He wasn't beaten too far there. He started $10 in Everest, if you don't mind. So I agree. What odds are you willing to take with him, mate?
I'd probably bet down to 64, like 250. Yep. Happy around that marker. You've got the already in the bank Overpasses won this track and trip in the Quokka. Beat the likes of Amelia's Jewel and Bella Nipotina in that race. There's certainly none of them here. And even since that race come back, runs a second to Giga Kick and and a second to Private Eye, and then went into the Everest. So I think, down to 250, I'd be happy to take.
Yeah, I agree. $3 now, Corpse. You'll get $3.20, $3.40 potentially Betfair. I think that's an absolute great price there, Clance. We'll move on to Caulfield. Rail out 5 metres. What did you make of the day here? 1,000 Guineas Day. A lot of talk about the track. It was up and in, if anything. You agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, hard to argue with that sentiment. I obviously there's a lot to be said of, if you know nothing about the weather or nothing about a track, up and in's a good place to be, right? So if you're finding horses coming in and sitting in that position, you're going to be ahead of the curve anyway to begin with. So I don't think you can get too crazy about it. It's one of those things that just adjust on the day.
Yep, fair call. Rail out 5, as I said, there has been some showers around. It'll probably be softer than it has over the last couple of weeks, or over the Spring Carnival was pretty firm, a lot of these tracks. So might play a bit fairer than it did a couple of weeks ago. We'll start with race 4, a 3-year-old fillies race, the Twilight Glow Stakes of 1,400 metres. You've had a close look at the race?
Yeah, racing 2, I think Miraval Rose is a very, very good filly, as I think is extremely rowdy. Extremely rowdy, backing up from a really impressive win last week. Ran the fastest last 200, 400 of the meet. Gallagher's team pretty excited about what this filly's got to offer. I think getting up to the 1,400 is only going to help. I think Miraval Rose is going to be really hard to beat, but at the price, I think Extremely Rowdy is now $6. I think that's a terrific price to take, but even more keen on the top 2 market at Betfair. I think we'll be getting 250 to 275, and I think that's just a tremendous bet in what is a 2-horse race. So I'll be mainly betting the top 2, but I'll also have a little bit at the win market, Extremely Rowdy.
Love that. I agree. Extremely Rowdy, just on ratings as well. Rates really well, maps well. The favourite there's probably short enough, but even money. But you might get better on the fair, and looks well weighted as well at the set weights. So Tommy, 2 play for you, Extremely Rowdy and Miraval Rose, but the top 2 on Extremely Rowdy for Clance. We move on to race 5, mates. Interesting race this, the Eclipse Stakes, 1,800 metres. We talked about Keats was going to go around in the 1,600 metre Kilmore Cup on Sunday. Now 1,800 metres. Looks a stronger race, Group 3 today. What do you make of the race?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a play here. I think Keats, Barry 1, obviously leads, loves that front running role. Sir Lou can sit close. Just Folk's an interesting runner. Hasn't won for a very, very long time, over 600 days. Let's Roll the Dice is a horse that won impressively last start, but got an easy time in front on that leader bias track. Probably made it look a bit better than it was. Ain't No Deal Done flying. And then a horse at really good odds that I'm actually semi-keen on is one called Swords Drawn. Was first up at the 1,400 metres last start, gets up to 1,800 today, which is very helpful. Sat right behind the leaders, looked to travel really well, just never got the out and went through the line untouched, only beaten two and a bit lengths in the Group 2 Derby Day, last race of the day. So gets out to a much more favourable trip. Any cut in the track, any sort of rain, only going to help this horse's chances. We're getting $17, $18 currently. I think that's a really nice play at the odds. And I think Keats is going to prove really hard to get past in front as well. So I think Just Folk is the early favourite, or I think 380.
Ain't No Deal Done.
Ain't No Deal Done.
Fair favourite.
Yep. And then, so Just Folk's going to be the one that I'm keen to take on. I think that's the hole in the market there. I'll be getting a little bit worried if it gets into the heavy range, but I don't think we'll get there. So I'll be taking Just Folk on and small bets on Keats and Swords Drawn.
Ain't No Deal Done. Do you know why he was scratched a fortnight ago at Caulfield?
I do not.
He was lined up. He looked the best bet of the day there, and he got scratched on Saturday morning. So I'm not sure, but he's now obviously a month between runs, dropping back to 1,800 metres probably suits him. He looks hard to beat. I'm querying that, and I did this with the CF4, the Damien Oliver Stakes, that Group 2, that last race on Derby Day. The track was weird. Valana was trapped 4 wide throughout, faced the breeze, and got beaten under a length. We had other horses that were long odds right in the mix that were 3 wide throughout, and it was just a bunch finish. So I don't really like Swords Drawn. I can see why it's a big price. It was 200s as well in that race, but I won't knock you for backing something at 20. So I think Ain't No Deal Done's the horse to beat. Keats rolls along in front, but I did like him more on Sunday. The Kevin Hevenin, race 6, another 1,400 metre race, Group 3. a fascinating race and a race I'm really excited for because I'm pretty bullish, Clance, but I'll let you go first, mate.
Now, I just see Glint of Silver leading, but if you're bullish, I'll let you take this one, mate.
Every way I look at this race, Vallana comes out on top. Now, I mentioned Vallana trapped 4 wide throughout in that Damien Oliver, the last race there on Derby Day. It was a bunch finish, but Vallana came out and ran really well. Sorry, I said C4, I meant the Rupert Clark.
Yep.
Vallana came out and ran really well in the Rupert Clark. It was an outstanding performance. Beat home the Inferno and Crosshaven. Meets them both better at the weights considerably. Ties in through King Magnus the start prior and actually meets King Magnus 1.5 better at the weights as well. And that was the race that we keep touching on, that Damien Oliver, and King Magnus had a much better run. Vallana beat him home after being 4 wide throughout on speed. The track suits Vallana more as well, gets sting out. It won't be as hard as it has been, and I'm very confident here. So even if you make a case for Unusual Culture ties in with King Magnus, who Vallana beat when wide throughout, and Unusual Culture meets King Magnus 4 kilos worse from when they met in July, and there wasn't much between them there. So, yeah, very bullish Vallana. One of my better bets on the program, race 6, number 2. Do you agree?
Yeah, 244 on the exchange currently. What price are you happy to take down to?
Evens.
Oof.
Yeah, I've got it rated about even money, so.
Now, we know you've got an affinity with the Cliff Brown stable. Mm-hmm. The Inferno up to 1,400. Any chance?
I was a little bit disappointed in the Rupert Clark. He ran, obviously, in the Rupert Clark, and he meets Vallana, beat him home, and meets him better at the weights. So it's hard to see him turning the tables on Vallana. 2 kilo weight swing in favour of Vallana there. The Inferno loomed up like he was going to do something. Wrong part of the track, probably, but the winner was actually in front of him. So Magic Time, and she's an absolute star. Loomed up like he'd run into the race and just levelled out a little bit. Maybe second try at 14 will suit him much better, so I can make a case that he'll run well. I don't think he can turn the tables on Vallana if Vallana gets any luck from barrier 6. There's a bit of speed drawn underneath, but the map looks interesting there with Crosshaven, Vallana, Love Tap. Don't doubt Rory over a shorter trip, and there's a couple that are drawing inside Vallana, just needs to find a spot. As you said, Clint of Silver, the clear leader, so pretty bullish Vallana. You've got him on top?
I do, absolutely on top, in the 260 range. And I also think if any of that rain comes, good luck beating him.
Yep, yeah, loves it wet. So I think what he's been doing on firm tracks is just a bonus, and he'll grow a leg with a little bit of sting out, which we've had a fair bit of rain in Melbourne over the last week. Sandown Guineas, race 7, the mile race, another race I'm keen to bet into. Who are you with, Clancy?
This one, I've got Arkansas Kid on top, but I can't dive in at the early short price. I think it's a case of if he runs the mile, he wins.
Yep.
But I'm not sure whether he will run it.
What's your query there with the mile?
Well, just so dynamic at the 1200 so far this
Yep.
prep. Didn't quite get the best out of him over 1400, but it was that leader bias track, so it's really hard to actually draw a line there and understand how well he went, or to the contrary. And then obviously that was first time at 1400. Who knows how he's going to go at 1600? It's just hard to take, 230, 240
Yep.
about a horse that you're not sure can get the distance. Could be one of those plays that we can back the win and lay the place or something like that to see if he doesn't get the mile. The ones that are becoming hard late, Modown and Vivier. Vivier's the one I've got second pick. So if Arkansas has any holes in him, I think Vivier, the filly down the bottom, will be coming home strong.
She had no chance, Vivier, last start, the way the track was. She got snagged back from last, and I just worry that she might go back again. I know she's not drawn anywhere near as wide as last start, but she's not drawn kindly, so she might be back and conceding ground to some nice types. That's my little risk with her, but as you said, she had absolutely no chance from last on that day. I was really keen Arkansas Lad last start, and you walk away from that race, and I think I had the right bet, but he didn't win. So what do you do? He still ran the fastest 10.86400 of that race. He levelled out a bit late. My query is the 1600 metres as well, considering he was in a Coolmore 2 starts ago over 1200. Was that his aim? And now they had to change their training regime to get him to a mile here. I don't know. Zara On's a big plus. I just think he's the best horse. I think he's extremely well weighted. And if you back the best horse, more often than not, you're going to walk away with a nice return or a good run either way. So I think he's the right price at the moment, and I'm happy to be with him.
The Gator theory, back the right horse.
Back the best horse. Zipping Classic. I don't know what to do with this race. Race 8, 2400 metres. What a horse Zipping was. I've got no idea here. It's the same with, we talk about Arkansas Kid. There's a few horses coming off grand finals, and Arkansas Kid was through the Coolmore, obviously. A couple of horses through Melbourne Cups. Have they had their grand finals? Got 4 horses through the Queen Elizabeth, which Muramasa won. Meets a lot of these worse at the weights. Duke de Sessa, 2.5 kilos worse at the weights as well. Deny Knowledge, clear leader if they want to lead.
Yes, Deny Knowledge only really knows one way.
Yeah, except at Moonee Valley, where she somehow took a sit and ran home well. It was bizarre, but she's flying.
Yeah, it's a race that I'm not keen to have a bet on. I've got them marked relatively close to the market. Vow and Declare is one that I've got marked as a tiny bit of overs, got 550, and we're getting $6 plus at the moment. So, I mean, he's going better than he was last year when he won the race. So I think that's a pretty good lead in. Banker's Choice is one that hasn't looked to be running that well recently, but rated extremely well over the 2000 in that Clayton Moore race on 1,000 Guineas Day. So I think you're getting double figures there, Banker's Choice. Won't be having a bet early, but Vow and Declare and Banker's Choice, the two that I would if I was playing.
Yeah, I find Banker's Choice an interesting one. His ratings are good enough. Good in the Champions Mile, okay, big price there, but different gravy here. But then you'd think off that, like, you've got horses coming off Melbourne Cup versus him who ran midfield in a Country Cup. Like, there's a big discrepancy in class there, you would have thought, but the winner's obviously flying. I've got no huge opinion of the race. I found it very tricky. I'll be having Deny Knowledge probably on top. I just think she was probably favoured by the way that track was and the southerly win there. The last day of the Flemington Carnival, both Saturdays, it was very hard to make ground, and leaders were advantaged with that wind and how the track played, and she got favours, but I think she'll be hard to run down again. Just with a few horses coming back in trip, they might not have the turn of foot to get over. Deny Knowledge, so on top for me, but not a race I'm keen on.
Yeah, and actually the only time Deny Knowledge has got past 2,000 in her career was that Geelong race where she rated through the roof, won by 10 lengths, and that's a clearly superior rating to anything she's ever run in her life. So
It's bizarre they haven't tried that again.
well, I think all of the races throughout the carnival that Deny Knowledge was targeting was all of like the miles and the 10 furlong races, and now she's getting to the spot
too. So there's not much around for 2,400 just for the mares that in Group 1 class like the Empire Rose. So race 9 at Caulfield, the Summons Stakes, 1,600 metres, Group 3 set weights for the mares. I'll let you go first again, Liam.
Yeah, a race I'm not that super keen on, so you might have something for the punters a bit better than I will. I'm going to have a very small play at the early double figures Pickeroon. It was really, in fact, last 2 starts have been really strong, winning both at Hamilton and then coming to Flemington on Oaks Day and running a really nice win there. Both of those ratings were clearly superior to anything that she'd produced earlier, but seeing her do it twice in a row allows you to have a bit more confidence. Barrier 9, not ideal, but if can reproduce that rating, it puts her around about the $7 mark, and when you're getting $10 early markets, I'm happy to take that in a race I don't have a lot of confidence in.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 chances here. I really like the setup for Telesifile. Revolutionary Miss, just the set weights, they're so well off at the weights, these two. They're carrying 59 kilos and 58 kilos. So Revolutionary Miss, 99 handicap rater, carrying the same weight as Zenzella, who's an 83 handicap rater. And then you've got horses with 56 that are 72 handicap raters. So you're getting 3 kilos off, and you should be getting much more than that. So I've gone to the top of the weights. Revolutionary Miss, Barrier 10's tricky. I don't know whether they roll forward and just roll the dice and say we're leading today. Led 2 back in a strong race as well. But all that said, I'm with Telesifile. I love the setup. Back in trip, 3 weeks between runs, back in trip, blinkers on, Damien Lane on, Barrier 5. Just, it's a great setup, very good in a matriarch. This is easier, well off at the weights. It's worth the risk for me, and $5.50 or whatever you're going to get, you're close to $6 potentially on the exchange. I think it's a great bet for her, and I'm very confident she won't run badly, and very confident she's over the odds. So race 9 at Telesifile for me, mate.
Drawn well, Frosty Lane, C. Waller, plenty of
Blinkers
big
on.
ticks there.
Back
Yeah,
in
there
trip.
you go.
He loves back in trip from 2,000 to a mile. Waller, he does it very well, 3 weeks between runs. Coming off a Group 2, this is easier. So, yeah, very bullish there.
Final race? Final race of the day?
Final race. Hopefully we've got our pockets filled. Listed race. The Doveton Stakes, 1,200 metres. Interesting race. Jigsaw the clear leader here.
Jigsaw at his best
Yeah.
leads and wins this race, doesn't he? But unfortunately, he hasn't come up this prep as well as he went to the paddock. So I think he probably still goes over, and you might have the likes of Semyon, Auradonte and Rangers trying to challenge for the lead.
It's a fascinating race. You've got Showmanship off a long break, who's, if at his best, it clearly wins this. And then you've got this Japanese runner, Laudi Sion, who's won a jump out at Pakenham leading in, I believe it was. So, Kyneton, sorry. And that jump out was quite good. So what do you make of the race?
Yeah, again, not one I'm super keen on. 1,200 to finish the day. Showmanship runs to his peak and obviously wins this race, but hasn't been sighted on track for 440 days. And pretty inconclusive jump out as well, so hard to know where he's at.
Aren't they?
Yeah, over that back straight there, like there's just...
Watching them from 400 metres away.
Yeah, correct. I've got him marked at the $7 range, so I'm happy to have a small bet Showmanship with very little confidence. Lord of Sion's a very interesting one. Again, marked around that $9 mark. So certainly in the race, Gennady going well. Prowling was great, coming from the back against the track pattern first up. So you can make a case for a lot of these. So it's one I'm not going to be playing heavily in. What about yourself?
Yeah, there's so many X factors in this race, and it's probably why I can't get Gennady down to the price. Fantastic against the pattern last start, ran the fastest 400 metres of the day last start. So I'm laying a horse that's in really good form, but gets up against the boys here, and there's some really talented horses. Like Lombardo's got a lot of talent if he turns up. Showmanship's ratings are through the roof if he turns up. Jigsaw leads, I think, in my opinion, and will be hard to run down. I thought he was okay in a Gill guy down the straight, and then the Imperatriz race just doesn't work out for him, and in different gravy, Imperatriz and IME's obviously going really well as well. So I'm just risking that race a little bit, and I love backing leaders in the last. So we saw it with Rose Courts here a fortnight ago in the last race, got the chocolates, and then I can make a case for Chris Wallace, Japanese runner at the top, who won that trial. I thought Showmanship's Pakenham jump out was okay, made some ground, but it was a month or so ago, over a month ago. So haven't seen him since, I got no idea. I am laying Gennady. I'm just willing to risk this mare from barrier 8. Jamie Carr's obviously found some form, but she goes on.
It's a perfect segue, mate, because we've got a minute left on the potty and we've got to get to our lay streak. You had successful Carl last week, laying Lord Vladivostok the place. So you've turned your 100 into 118. You're going to lay Gennady at that price?
Yes, let's do it. Do we set a price that we want to back it at too? Is that how we work? Or
No,
Carl wouldn't have worked that out last week.
No, that's a bit too complicated for us on the summer edition of the podcast, mate.
Well, we're laying her, and hopefully she doesn't win. That's simple as that.
Beautiful.
If she starts $10 and wins, I'm in trouble. That happened to me a few
months ago.
Well, the
118's gone if that's the case anyway, so it doesn't matter what
true.
price.
That's very true.
And for mine, I'm going to lay Caulfield Race 5, number 1, Just Folk, for all the reasons outlined earlier in the show. And my 100, what was it? The WA horse over there, something File, Antifile or whatever his name is. He almost made me look bad by running second, but funnily enough, I still got the $36 back. So 136
well done.
is liability for Just Folk this week.
Lovely. Thanks for joining me. Or I joined you, really. I don't know who's doing it next week. We'll wait and see. We'll see what the bosses say. But been a pleasure. Go well, and hopefully both of us or one of us will join you next week.
And also, we'll just say that the watch lists will go up via the socials, and you'll be able to follow along there.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.